Well, first, okay, I'll use this one. Well, first of all, don't know a lot about Indian tennis, but obviously, you know, I've been around to follow the players of the past, and there's been a lot of great Indian players, and of course, in general, I think India probably has quite a bit of potential. It's a growing economy, a lot of more interest about the sport. You have some great players in doubles. Singles has probably been a little bit more difficult, which is a little bit more of a challenge, but at least there are some players they can look up to. But it's still a long way to go, because in order to succeed in tennis in general, yes, you need a good environment to start, you need a lot of skills and good coaches from the beginning, and in order to get to the top of the tennis, it requires that you actually travel quite a bit and compete, play a lot of matches, and that's the challenging part, I think it is.
You're representing times over TOISA awards, so how privileged do you feel regarding it?
Now I feel very nice to have the invitation here, and I heard about it a few years ago, and you know, I thought it was a good idea to once again come back to India here to spend a few days here enjoying it and being part of this show here, so it feels good.
You have coached legendary like Roger Federer, so what do you feel the environment over here? Is there any environment which can fit Roger Federer in India as well?
You mean create
great potential?
There's always some potential, because if you look at tennis over the last 20-30 years, there's definitely been some changes. When I sort of came up as a young guy, there was mostly players from the US, Europe, but over the last 20-30 years, since tennis became part of the Olympics, the tennis has spread around, and there's a lot of players coming now from, you know, Asia, China, Japan, and India has some potential as well here. So the sport is growing in this part of the world, and so definitely on the right track, I believe.
In what way you are going to mentor the players over here who are playing the under 60 tournament? How you are going to mentor the player?
Well, there's so much you can do as a mentor. You can always give some advice, something to think about, some importance of the game. That's our key factors in to succeed. So it's usually when you do get some advice, it's just one or two small things that maybe can make a little difference, that you think a little bit differently, you feel what's important and what's important to work at. So it's I know that from my own experience, you know, sometimes you only need to hear one little thing to make you think a little bit, okay, I didn't think about that, and then so sort of you can go from there.
So Stefan, tennis is a sport, it's a game of, you know, long stamina. But still, Stefan, you are known for your cool temper, as well as on the court and as well as off the court. Which is that thing what kept you just going with that?
Yes, coming from the Nordic region of this world, I think the temper is quite cool up there, the weather is cool, and we stay cool. I used to have Bjorn Borg as an idol. He was, as you know, called almost the Iceman on the court, and I think everybody looked up to him as a child, so that was my idol, and you know, he was a perfect example how to behave on the court, and it suited me quite well, I believe. But it's not like that for everybody, because some people are going to have more fire within themselves and maybe show more expression, so it's really finding yourself on the court. It's nothing wrong but being angry, we just have to show it in the right way, or you know, just because there are certain things that you can do and not do on a tennis court there, so it's always a challenge, you know, how to be out on the court. You know, mentally it's a tough game, physically it's a tough game, so you know, it takes a lot of learning how to use your inner strength.
Stefan, as you are in Mumbai, and Mumbai happens to be, this is a city of, you know, film, Bollywood industry is there. A great Indian actress, Sridevi, she has passed away. So, do you have, would you like to speak some words for her?
Well, for sure, I don't know a lot about Bollywood. If I would have known, then I would do, but I can't make any comments about it. Sorry about that.
what do you think? What can be done to make the game more popular in our country? As it's more organized, more infrastructure should be built, or more sponsorship should be given?
Well, it takes time for a sport to catch on. Normally, you need some idols, heroes, and infrastructure is obviously very important because all the work creating the future tennis stars will start at a club like this, for instance. This is where you need to have the facilities, the time on the court, the coaches that will learn you the skills of this game. It's a very complex game, tennis. It takes a lot of time, a lot of repetition, and so the environment where you grow up is very important, because the first 5 years on the tennis court, that's sort of when you learn the game, how to hit the ball and the technique. So it's a very important time, and from then on, you need to work your way up. And once you get to 15, 16, that's probably when you start to need to travel and play international tournaments to play against other players around the world. But it's very important in the beginning.
For playing tennis, it's required a lot of stamina. Are you going to give any tips to small little kids how to improve their stamina?
Well, it's very true. It's a physical game, it's a mental game, and the easy way you can, I mean, I try to tell a lot of young players, it's not the amount of hours you spend out there, it's being smart and playing enough hours and do it in a, what can you say, a very structured way. But I think the main thing in tennis is how do you get better, how do you train your mental strength and your physical strength. That's by playing matches. Matches is the best way of getting forward, because it's very different when you play a match and when you practice. So it's a key factor to getting a good tennis players to play lots of matches. That's the only way, I believe.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I mean, to be honest, we grew up watching you and Boris Becker playing 88 to 90 Wimbledon.
Yeah.
I can remember each and every, I would say, moment of it. And that's where I think tennis started became popular in India.
Oh, it is? Okay,
Yeah,
that's
88 to
interesting.
90, that time frame, otherwise cricket was the only thing in India.
Okay.
So you also helped, our generation, and now my daughter is playing here, so that tennis has started percolating to next generation. My question to you is, in your time, serve and volley was kind of a style of the game. And now very few people see that kind of a style. Is it because of the speed of the game or technique has changed?
Yeah, I'll try to answer in the best way. I mean, it's nice to hear that tennis became sort of popular during my times, and I always have a feeling that, I've always had a lot of support from India, a lot of people, and a lot of fan letters and things, so that's nice to hear. I think the serve and volley game was something that was a big part of the game when I grew up, and the way I played, the way Boris played. But there were, during those times, I think what has changed over the last 20, 30 years, the court has generally got slower, the balls has got a little bit heavier, which both those things are a disadvantage to playing serve and volley. I think the rackets, the technology, and mostly the strings within the racket has changed quite a lot. So nowadays you can sort of both have the power and the control. So there's a lot of things that's come together where it would make it far more difficult to play serve and volley. I doubt it over the next 10 years we're probably not going to see a true serve and volley player. But I think it's a mixture in between would be great to see. And also, one must remember, playing serve and volley, it's something that requires time. It probably takes a little bit longer to learn, but it requires a lot of practice when you're younger too. And that's maybe people don't practice enough on it, and you don't really need to be a serve and volley player today because it's played from the back of the court. But it would be an advantage if you can do a little bit of it in tomorrow's game, I believe, where, I think Roger Federer is a perfect example of being probably the most complete player there is in the world today. He can actually do everything which very few players you do. I mean, a lot of players, even the best, yes, they can play serve and volley, but maybe not to perfection. Okay, everybody happy? Thank you.